My name is Glenis Redmond, and I work in the art form of poetry. I have a fondness in my heart for what we call high-risk students. Want those that fall through the cracks. Usually, they're the kinesthetic learners, and poetry, especially the performing of it, really speaks to them. And they usually become the I call the informal leaders when I come into the classroom. So, although I'm looking at all the students, and I think poetry really works for young people, I really find that quote unquote disadvantaged student really shines when it comes to poetry. I think Mary Oliver, who's a poet, said this that there are three lives of poetry: when you read it, and when you write it, and when you speak it. And people call that performance. And I think they're all invaluable, and you need one to scaffold on the other. But the oral tradition is important because it's the way we communicate, it's how we understand poetry. So I ask students to put their own work into their body, and it changes them. It changes how they look at poetry and other literature. So when you act it out, when you speak it, there is an empowerment that happens, a light that starts to shine, and then they start engaging with the material in another manner. A lot of students have the idea that they don't like poetry quite so much. Imagine that. So we're going to come in on the spoken realm first. I like to start in the third life so they can hear me do some work, hear some other work, and then we're going to come back and read it. Then we will come back and write. And then we'll go back to performing. But it will be their own work that they're performing or somebody else's. So it's kind of this circular or maybe a spiral. It just keeps on growing. The process feeds itself. So when I'm working doing arts integration, they study the classics and they will perform the classics. And then on another level, they will write their own and then they get to perform their own and make those connections between what I've written and then also what was written in the past. I keep thinking about a professor I had in college. He used to say when he would give us something important, he would take his fist and he would pound on the desk and he would go at one time and he said, and that's for the test. And then if he pound three times, he'd say, this is for life. And I feel like that's what poetry is. It's that 3 pounds. Yes, it's for the classroom, but it's also for life. You're building skills, you're building tools that are going to make them better students, but better citizens out in the world.